Oh, John, I got it.
Huh?
I got it.
What?
The whole thing.
Good.
Okay. So, welcome everyone. Thursday, June 1st at 5 o'clock, meeting the Finance and Human Resources Committee. I am here. Dave Risberger will not be here. Scott Harrington, are you here?
Yes.
John Rafter, are you here?
Here?
Great. Okay, did anyone have any comments or corrections to the minutes from the last meeting?
None from me.
I thought they looked great. Thanks. Okay, jumping right in. Topics A, civilian dispatcher appointment. We love to hear it. I think.
Go ahead. Go ahead if you'd like.
Just that we plan to bring a appointment to the next council meeting for a civilian dispatcher. It's a budgeted position that is vacant. It's a CSEA grade 6
Okay.
with a starting salary of $32,402. What's nice about this one is this person is bringing in some experience.
Cool.
It's a pretty unique, and I think from unsolicited, I've heard many good comments about this person. So
Great.
it seems like this is kind of like a good win. And I apologize, I should have followed up, but and Greg, maybe you know, I mean, I don't know if this came through actually the police department. I know it wasn't like initially through our office, so it might have been referred to by the police chief or the lieutenant or someone like that. But that was really good news. So yeah, so we're looking, and they would be starting effective June 7th, the day after the council meeting.
Okay, great. Any comments or questions from anybody? No? Okay. Excellent. Thank you.
Yep.
More news. Topic B.
Yep, so similar, but we actually have two maintenance worker positions that we're looking to bring to council.
Okay.
These are CSEA grade 4s with a starting salary of $31,127. Both would be effective June 7th, the day after the council meeting.
Okay.
They are budgeted and they are vacant.
Okay, great.
Quick question.
Yeah.
One is Logan.
Yeah.
He's an MEO.
Oh, is it MEO? Oh, I apologize.
Oh.
Yeah, he has a
Okay.
Class B.
Okay, my apologies. So one would be an MEO, motor equipment operator, which I will update. Grade 6, starting salary $32,402.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
That's good.
Okay, bear with me one sec while I update what I had typed.
Yeah, sorry, I can read them out. I can give you the grades and stuff again.
Oh. No, that's okay. Ballparks are good. Let's see. Okay, great. Any questions from anybody else on the committee? No? Okay, perfect. Thank you. Topic C, police recruiting.
It's me again, sorry.
That's
This is
okay, that's what
really-
we're here for.
Well, really just an update, but I guess we may ask you for something too, but
Always.
we have just help, not anything difficult, just social media help.
Okay.
So the police, the next exam for police officers is scheduled to be held on September 9th.
Okay.
The applications for that exam will be due August 7th.
Okay.
Last year, we ended up with no candidates attending for different reasons. So we're really trying to expand kind of our approach and hopefully have more qualified, available, and willing candidates. So we are undertaking a targeted digital advertising campaign.
Okay.
This is going to last. We're actually doing it for about 3 months, but really, the focus for the police is probably going to be closer to 2 months, and then we'll use the additional month for maybe a different position or positions.
Okay.
But we are expecting 100,000 impressions per month. That is, I'm sorry, just to go back to the targeted piece, we did define some different areas that we are targeting, which is typically an age range, which is the eligible age range for candidates for this position.
Okay.
Interest in physical fitness, interest in law enforcement. We also looked at geographical area, which is a little smaller than, say, Utica to Syracuse to down towards Binghamton and out towards Kingston.
Okay.
It's a little smaller than some of those areas because we're not necessarily targeting Syracuse. We feel that may water down kind of our pool. We're trying to focus more on people that may not be looking to go to Syracuse, so we're not competing directly with a larger city like that. But what this means is basically if they meet those criteria, those people may see small advertisements on either websites or games. Like if you're playing, I think the example given is like Candy Crush, and you get like an ad that pops up, that could actually be like a come take the city of Oneonta police exam. This also includes some print advertising, which is a little broader than what we normally do, kind of promoting it. Most of it's going to be more recruitment effort, but obviously we'll have links and stuff to our civil service information for the actual exam itself. We're also looking at some new business cards, which are, by the way, well, I'll get there, I'm sorry. New business cards that are going to be just easy handout things that contain a QR code that would directly link to the correct page, as well as some posters that we'll post in some different places, and those yard signs, like the things that just stick in the ground. I think all those are the hope with all those is that they are not necessarily like date specific, so that they can be reused. So for instance, the business cards that our clerk set up is, the QR card is going to link to a page. We can change information on the page, but we can reuse those cards, hopefully, if we don't hand them all out. We've also established a team that consists of 5 officers, which is a sergeant, 2 patrol officers, which is kind of our most senior, and our newest patrol officer, to give kind of different viewpoints and aspects, as well as a couple detectives. It also includes our city clerk, who handles a lot of our social media and has a lot of good input and design abilities, as well as our senior human resources associate, so, or specialist, excuse me. So, so that team is kind of spearheading it. They're working together and coming up with different ideas. They're also looking at a couple events. One is tentatively set for June 11th, and that would likely be in the park, probably at the Brenner Building. But they are kind of, oh, I'm sorry, no, I'm sorry, I had that wrong. That's actually in the police department, sorry, and that'd be for interested candidates. They could get a tour. They may actually even do like a ride-along kind of thing. We'd obviously have job applications available, so it'd be like kind of an in-house job fair, excuse me.
So, I'm sorry, you said like June 11th, like in 10 days?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Just checking.
Yep. No, I'm sorry. It's probably my nasty money. The other one is tentatively set for July 15th, and that's the one that would be in the park. I apologize. The goal there might be more of a police appreciation type event that would also include recruitment, and that would be held in the park. We are also looking to see if we can tie it into some different events. Like I don't know if there's a baseball game going on. That's early, so I don't know. I'm not saying that's happening, but it's just we're just trying to look to see if we can create other interest or other ways to draw people. And we're also looking at well, I think that may also include a picnic event type thing. So again, to attract more people. I believe the team from the police department is also looking at recruiting on July 4th, the 4th of July events that are going on, that they would have a table kind of set up to help kind of get word out for that. And they are also looking at the movies in the park nights, at doing some recruiting there as well.
Okay.
Same kind of thing, just kind of putting at a table, being available, just letting people ask questions if they want. They're also looking at getting some different promotional materials that they may be able to hand out at some of these events. We're of course continuing with kind of our normal and paid social media advertising and promotion, which is done either in-house or obviously the paid piece. We go out to get promotion, you know, higher views there. So I kind of said we may ask you guys for something, I guess, prior to August 7th, if anyone's having an award meeting and would be interested in having someone attend, either from HR, police, both, I'm not sure, we can talk about what ideas you may have or would be interested in, just to kind of come and give information and hopefully get some local word of mouth kind of going in case there's friends, family members that may be interested. Also, I would encourage, if you have social media accounts, as we have posts on the city page, if you can like, share, repost, whatever the, you feel comfortable with, just to help again kind of promote the effort. I think as far as costs go, if there are costs, the chief is kind of approved any necessary transfers that would likely come from his training budget, but again, I don't know if that's finalized yet. That's something we'll be working with the director of finance on. The idea being that because we have not, and we possibly will not be sending people to the academy for the periods of time, the number of people, and for the periods of time that we expected, that there would be a cost savings there. And some of that may also, just in case you see it, may fall under the personnel code line just because of the type of work that it is. It depends on what the costs are, but we'll work with our director of finance and the chief on that. But the chief is supportive of that effort for his funds, whatever we are able to do.
Okay.
And that was kind of all I had, unless you have any questions.
Yeah, no, that sounds really, I mean, from my perspective, it sounds really thought out in a good way that you need, potential candidates, so
Yep,
I think it's cool.
we had a good pool of firefighter applicants for the exam, test takers. We are processing that right now. We're actually trying to get them all scheduled. We did send out a canvas letter for that, which the response has not been as great as we had hoped in terms of percentage of the people that took the exam. But we are scheduling the physical agilities, which we're offering practices and actual test dates for.
Okay.
And I think we've spoken about it before, but just so you're aware that is a different agility test this year as compared to the old kind of run, sit up, push up type thing. This is more firefighter task oriented.
Cool.
It's something that mimics the CPAT that they would take at the academy, but it's not the same. It's meant to kind of provide an idea of their ability to successfully complete that should they enter the academy.
Yeah, that sounds great. Cool. Any thoughts, questions, comments from, okay.
For me.
Okay, that sounds great. Yeah, I'll share all of that at the council meeting too, to make sure that, if anybody is having a working day.
And if it helps, I can send you some notes on
Sure.
what I did.
Yeah,
So,
I love information. Thanks. Okay. Topic D, River Street and Ann Street water main replacement.
So we discussed this at two or three meetings ago, Finance Committee. Just an update, we're going to be bringing this forward on Tuesday. We hope to have a bond authorization resolution, a budget establishment, and a bid award. The last meeting, finance meeting, or last time we discussed this, we talked about the different alternates that there were bid, and we're recommending the base bid award, which is the section of River Street from Main to just about the Boys and Girls Club driveway or Scrambling Ave. That's water main replacement primarily, also the reconstruction of the road and some curb and sidewalk work. We're also recommending award of alternate number 1, which is the west end of River Street water main replacement, and alternate number 2, which is Ann Street, which is a side street off the river,
Yep.
water main replacement. Total cost of those 3 scopes of work is $2,464,509. That's the bid amount that would be awarded in the contract. RV Robinson, the low bidder, out of 2.
Okay.
We also intend to spend just about $100,000 through a piggyback contracting process, a separate contract with another company. Actually, I'm not sure exactly the company name, but they're on Harold Construction. They do sewer main lining, so we've got some sewer mains to reline on some sections of River Street. That'd be about $100,000. And then adding in for some roughly 5% construction contingency, we end up with total budget of $2,705,000. General fund, $770,000 of that. That will be funded by CHIPS and/or other DOT funding programs. The water portion would be $1,755,000.
Okay.
$530,000 of that from ARPA, $1,225,000 the waterfront bond. That's hence the bond authorization needed. And then the sewer portion of the project, $180,000 from ARPA.
Okay, that all makes sense, and it's, to me, and it's in line with what you told us last time.
Right, we really haven't changed much or anything from what we talked about last time, other than, we had to work on the bond resolution and.
Okay, great, well, that's good news.
There's a chance they may start some work this year. Certainly the sewer main relining, and I think Robinson's talking about getting started on some of the work for River Street. We weren't sure with some of the material lead times if they were gonna be able to start this year, but
Right.
we'll have a more specific schedule once the contract's awarded.
Okay, cool. Okay, oh, a camera van. Topic E.
This is the last time in any of our careers, hopefully, talk about the camera van at the Finance Committee. We did purchase a camera van. We have it in our possession. I don't believe it's on the road yet, but
We have it, well, it's not on the road, but we have
it's
it.
going through the insurance and all that process.
Okay.
And it's gonna have to have upfitting done to actually install the camera and do some modifications, but that, because it was an emergency purchase, I had sent a memo to the council updating you that cost was a little different, because we had to purchase from a different vendor. We're able to do that, so we'll have the motion just to set the final numbers.
Okay.
And have that go through council like it should.
Excellent.
I'm just laughing because I saw everybody's face light up when the camera van was mentioned, so. Sorry. That's good news. I'm glad, finally.
Okay. Okay. Oh, cool. Topic F.
So this we expect will only be on this coming council agenda.
Won't be?
Will be.
Oh, okay.
To hire Fisher Associates for a sum of $544,000 to do the engineering design for the Oriana Route 23 and 28 pedestrian and bicycle improvements project, which covers the Lettuce Highway section, as well as 23 and 28 along South Side, between Lansford Hill, Park, Main Street, Home Depot.
This is the joint thing, the town though, right?
Right, so
Yeah.
the town will be funding the portion of the work that's in the town.
Okay.
Will be funding the portion of work in the city. The city applied for and was awarded the grant from Ware CRT, PhD, we're administering the grant, construction, engineering contract, construction contract, so it's a city project. Some of the work's being done in the town, and the town's paying for the portion of the work in the town, of course.
Cool.
Which is why there's, item G, which is the intermunicipal agreement with the town of Oneonta that may or may not be ready, for Tuesday, it might be the next meeting. But that just outlines in detail how the town is gonna reimburse the city for its portion of the expenditures.
Okay.
And 544, that's for engineering design. There could be, would presumably be a supplemental agreement with Fisher Associates at some point in the future when we go to construction for them to do the construction administration and observation, but that's not included in that 544. And then obviously there would be a competitive bid for construction.
Okay. Thank you for
Likely
walking us
2025 construction by the time this is done.
Okay, that's cool though. Okay, so the 544, that's the total amount to do all the engineering for both the city and the town, right? Is there any, it seems silly, maybe paranoid, but is there any risk to the city approving that amount prior to entering into the intermunicipal agreement?
As long as we're not expending any money in that 2 weeks that it would take to do that, we really wouldn't be, we'd be scheduling our first meeting around that time, so.
Okay,
I don't feel there's a big risk.
okay,
We can always rescind it
okay,
if for some reason the agreement doesn't come through.
okay, cool, thanks. Sure that would never be the case, but just thought of myself, figured I'd ask. Thank you. Okay. So topic G, is there more on that, or do you wanna just?
Not really, just that, we do have to finalize the language of this intermunicipal agreement both the city and town will obviously, the town board will also have to pass a resolution or motion to approve that.
Okay, cool. Topic H.
Judy, you wanna jump in on that?
Sure.
Thanks.
So, we were funded for the wastewater treatment plant upgrade phase 2 project. We were funded with, bill money, which is from the bipartisan infrastructure law
Yeah.
funding. The total project cost is 5.253 million, and we got a 50% grant for $2,626,500. That money's been awarded. Our next step is we need to submit, so the half is grant, half is a short-term loan through the Clean Water State Revolving Fund, which is the CWSRF. In order to get that 0% loan, we need to submit a, funding application for it. So that's due on June 16th. And, we are coming to the council to do a, seeker resolution for a type 2 action and an authorizing resolution for the application and a bond resolution for the total project cost, and it'll authorize the borrowing portion.
Okay. The authorizing resolution was for the
Application,
loan.
CWSRF loan, be a 0% 30-year loan.
The bond resolution is for the full amount? Or
Yeah,
for
there's
the-
2 parts to the bond resolution. It authorizes the total project cost, and it will also authorize the, borrowing amount. And we'll have language in there that the, part of the funding will be the grant, and the other part will be the 0% loan.
Okay. Cool.
I might have missed that. How much was the loan for?
And the grant's the same amount, 2,626,500. The total project cost is 5,253,000.
Any questions? Okay, cool. Thank you for doing all that work, Judy. Okay. Topic I, budget adjustments to close capital projects.
Part of the year-end work is I will go through each capital project and analyze. I work with the engineering and I work with Greg as far as what projects are completed, where we are in the process. Part of that is when projects are completed, I analyze the funding and determine what can be returned to either the operating funds or what needs to be reserved for future debt payments because we borrowed money. And our borrowing is an estimate. So you will see on the detailed, I'm not sure if you've distributed that yet, but you'll see on the detail for Tuesday, a detail of the project, how much the costs were, what the funding was, what the difference was, and what we need to do with it. Either return it to the general fund, return it to the water fund, the sewer fund, or reserve it in the debt service fund for future bond. I want to say on the list, there's about 6 or 7 different projects that are being closed. And because the council authorizes the original funding sources, the council has to release the funds to be returned back to where they need to be.
That makes sense. That's pretty straightforward. Questions? No? Okay. Cool. Okay, revenue generation discussion.
Before we do this, can we do a couple
Yeah.
follow-ups real quick?
Oh, sure.
The sign truck that we bought, did you guys ever get that? I call it the sign truck, the boom truck,
Oh, no, that's being delivered in August.
Has it come in?
No.
I just was hoping maybe some more happy news was here.
Oh, gotcha.
Sorry. That's it, that's all.
Oh, okay. I almost asked if there was any additional business before we did that, so you're on the
It was just a follow-up. I was just like, let's,
Can I just
Sure, yeah, if you have more.
I just wanna let the council know that audit is the week of June 12th. I still don't have the 2022 books closed, but I'm working diligently to hit that deadline.
Okay.
And I do wanna say that, just working on the capital projects and working on all the community development funds, cause I do have those closed, that the city is incredibly fortunate with the amount of grant monies that we have received and the 0% loans that we have received. I have never in my tenure in the city seen such activity as I have seen in the past few years, which is attributed to our community development staff, our planning staff, our engineering staff, the whole city staff. It's just, you're gonna be really amazed when you see the financial statements. And there's a section in the financial statements where I'm able to write what's called the management discussion section.
Okay.
I'm going to highlight all of those wonderful aspects of, of what the city has accomplished. And it's going to be a really nice report. I normally am reporting to the council for year-end results, and also the first quarter results by now, but obviously I'm behind just being short-staffed, but that will be coming soon.
Cool.
So, how much debt do we have out there in the way of our bonds and our loans?
Say that how much debt do we
How
have?
much debt do we have out there for our budget? How much of it is our debt out there for our bonds and our loans? Because we're getting ready to bond more projects and.
Do you have, yes, and if you've got your budget right there, Scott, there is a
I
section.
think it's in my truck.
There's
I'm sorry.
There's a section in there, there's several sections in there about bonding, what our current debt is, what our future debt is, and it's broken out by funds. I don't have that right in front of me, but I can give you an updated report on the bond authorizations.
I guess that's kind of what I was asking, because I know we just took out a couple more since we've done that. And we're looking at doing more and.
And I understand the concern, but I also want to stress that a lot of projects have been not completed in the past couple of decades because of finances. But we have gotten to the point that we can no longer wait, and that is why we're doing so many projects now with so many finances. And what's absolutely wonderful is all of the grants that Judy has been able to get for us that are at 0% is saving the taxpayer hundreds of thousands of dollars of interest. And so we're very fortunate that we're getting these EFC grants and the zero loan. It's very helpful. Also, I'm working on getting all of the sewer debt exempt from our debt margin. So when we actually file our debt margin with the state, all the sewer, especially the large one that we just, the 6.9 that we just did, 6.7 for the sewer fund, that will be exempt. It will not go towards our debt margin formula. Cool.
How are our reserves looking? Because as we get closer and closer to budget, we're going to be pulling out of reserves again. And we already know that.
The reserves are they're stable. We have been using them, but we've also been replenishing them. When I haven't got the numbers finalized, so I don't want to say if I'm going to be making recommendations to add, but I want to say that I'm about 75% sure that I'm going to be bringing you suggestions to add back into the reserves. We had a lot of savings in 2022 because of vacancies, and we also, our sales tax revenue came in much higher than we had anticipated. So I'm anticipating that I'll be requesting the council to approve increases in the reserves. So I believe that we are still at a very strong financial condition.
It's kind of early to ask those questions. I'm sorry, but
That's all right. I'm not making any promises, but as of right now, that's the impression that I have.
thanks.
So does everyone feel complete on that? Sorry, I'm messing with my margins here, which I should not be. Okay, so I think that's a really great segue, actually, into this discussion. I wanted to just compile a list of things that have been suggested at one time or another. I was hoping to hear from more folks on council, but there's we'll see there's like a lot of overlap here. I thought we could try to prioritize as a group things that we, you know, want to be looking into. I think that I just want to be really clear that I don't think that this is something that we should send staff going on a goose chase about. I mean, I think it needs to be collaborative. Obviously, there are things that you know that we do not know and cannot know. But I think that, you know, until we legislate something and approve, you know, a specific change, you know, it's not really fair to ask staff to go out and, you know, do extra work on our behalf. So I think what we should do is go through this list. We don't have to read it aloud, but there are a couple things that are mentioned kind of by more than one person, so that maybe those things will kind of float to the top, but I think we should figure out what we would like to be kind of focusing our efforts on. It's already June, we're already halfway through the year, and we, you know, none of us want to be dipping into our general fund reserves or, you know, having to, you know, tax as much as we do in order to keep the lights on. So I don't know, I would open it up at this point to, you know, just general discussion over what types of things we could be looking at. And I did say in my email, I have some resources on things, like if we decide we wanna go into something, but we can just have like, I don't know, general discussion about what we think is best to look at first.
Well, in fairness, I want to say when I wrote some of this was during COVID. And I'm not sure I stand behind some of what I said anymore.
Okay,
So I
Yeah.
kind of wish I had forewarned that you were going to do this.
well, so I
So,
I actually emailed you, and then said that I was gonna bring it to council and ask if there was anything that,
I just didn't see the email. It's not a big deal. It's just I don't think I stand behind some of this stuff anymore because we've come out of COVID and after just talking to Jenny with some of the stuff,
yeah,
I'm not sure. We also did some other stuff with trying to have talking about pay scales. We had that study that's either being
Yeah.
done, right?
that's
Being
what I
done,
was
right?
gonna ask about, is like,
So,
cause I know that there's that, and then, the other thing that was just brought up was this space utilization study. So I just wanted to ask the status of those, like, we hired someone to do the salary study.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
We've got a partial first draft. We're hoping to get a full first draft and have an actual discussion with our consultants. It's been tough to get on the same page with them as far as the schedule, to have that call. Bill and I are working on that. Hopefully within the next few weeks, we'll be able to have a final, or a complete first draft, and not long after that, a final.
Cool.
So yeah.
That's exciting.
Formal update, but
Yeah, that's good. And the space utilization study, that was like mentioned to me, and I was like, you know, I feel like we hired someone to do that, or did we not?
no, we did not. We talked about doing that, and funding was authorized, I believe, where
Okay, that's
where
what I
it was
remember from
discussed,
that.
and
Okay.
whether there was a motion or not, I don't remember. That just hasn't been something we've gotten to. I think,
Yeah,
you know,
that's fair.
the work that we've done in City Hall, I think the departments that are here are pretty well situated now.
Okay.
I don't see a need for doing a study specifically on, let's move City Hall, or, you know,
Yeah, right.
I've been hesitant all along to go down a hole of, let's look at a study for some potential major expensive capital projects that I just don't think are necessary right now. I think we've got a pretty good situation here. You know, what we've established at the Parks Building, I think there's still some things to look at, some other city spaces, you know, police and fire,
Yeah.
that sort of thing. It just hasn't been done yet.
Yeah.
We've got too much going on.
That makes sense. Yeah, okay, cool. Thank you for the update on that, which was mostly about my curiosity than anything else. Okay. Thoughts?
To bring this down to the level that I can understand, which means it has to go considerably down.
Okay.
One question I have is,
Yes.
have we fully considered, you know, even in our research, brainstorming, whatever, looking at sources of income, how do cities get income?
Mhm.
And I remember we may have played with this in previous council meetings, or council retreat, et cetera, trying to educate ourselves about the possibilities for more income.
Mhm.
In much of this, these are things like curb taxes, et cetera, which comes up, it's been coming up for, I don't know, like 8 years, maybe 12 years, I don't know how old I am anymore. But, you know, we have some traditional things that we pull out of our hat once in a while and do nothing about. And I think that in terms of looking at long-term for the city, whether this council would want to spend some time in a focused, longer-term sort of meeting or retreat to consider certain things that, well, for example, finances. What could we do to make it simple, to be richer? And without, for example, we could raise our taxes, but of course we can't do that exactly. So we'd have to get the money from somewhere, and there'd be resistance to that. But even to gather some thoughts at some time now about what can we as a city do to increase revenue.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the idea here, is that, you know, I sourced and I sent out an email to everyone on the council and said, you know, I want this to be something that the finance committee takes time to look at this year. So I guess in lieu of like a big thing where we're, you know, doing idea generation there, I wanted to try to build into these meetings, and actually we're having pretty efficient meetings, we have a bunch of time today. Build into these meetings that we're already having some discussion on that, to have us do, you know, some digging and figure out if these things are realistic, feasible, you know, for our city. Because a lot of these things have been done in other places.
Well, that's
you know.
another thing, that sometimes we'll gather together to brainstorm things, but it's already on the internet. You know, it's
Right.
already easily researched. We could probably come up with, say, 70 options. And begin with a longer list, and using our intuition and judgment, think what might work here.
Yeah.
You know, what's the probability of success for each one of these, or however we want to approach it?
Well, that's a really great point. Like, maybe we take this home and we individually look into these things, like you're saying, and see how they've been done in other places, and try to, you know, come up with some more targeted list, rather than using it as a checklist. You know, say, you know, we think this might really work here, and here's why.
Well,
And we could come back to the next meeting, or even do that over email, try to prioritize and pick something.
I'll just, once upon a time, the council met off-site to follow an agenda.
Yeah.
That was generated by the council. It never really, it's just was an opportunity to work in a more strategic manner, with more time.
Yeah.
And I think when it comes to something as simple as, what do we do to raise the prosperity, so to speak, at least the financial, the income, our monies, what do we do? And to begin with that by doing some research and seeing what the possibilities are, because cities, it's readily available on the internet,
Right.
you know.
Right.
And that list, if it was in the context of a brainstorm list, where we don't automatically get vomitous and say, no, we can't, I'm gonna barf that one out as quickly as I possibly can. It's not possible to do that. But it would give us a way to think about some longer term planning, or possibilities for what we could do, and have different managerial options options to consider rather than to work too quickly, you know, in brief meetings. And see
Sure.
what we might be able to come up with a longer term way to, make, when I say make the city more prosperous, but whenever, if we're becoming more prosperous, we're probably making someone else poorer. So that's the way government works. And we may have some ways of, you know, having some breakthrough with that to look at a way for our future financial success. Because we talk about it more.
Yeah.
So-
Well, I can't schedule a day-long thing, but I know that that's been talked about, and maybe that's something that could happen in the future. So, yeah, I want to try to figure out a way to prioritize our time here, as a working committee, you know, to be able to even just chip away at that.
Yeah, whatever you want to do to chip away.
Thanks, John.
But it's a bigger picture that we might miss if we're spending our time on chips.
Yeah.
In other words, some things take more time. Getting on a sounder financial footing is, we all know how I work with a dinner table conversation. It's difficult to do, and it's probably, but I think it's worth the time to create a setting where it would be safe to talk about possibilities
Sure.
and then select from them.
Sure. Mark, are you hearing that?
I'm sorry, actually, I was.
I love it. No, John was just suggesting that we do like a broader council retreat to talk
Yeah,
about,
yeah,
you know,
conference,
ideas.
it's a great
Yeah,
idea.
I was gonna say,
Yeah, it's a great idea.
yeah. So, I guess what I would wanna do in order to move us
I don't
forward
remember reading some of this.
is, just take a look at this or maybe any other ideas that you might have. And the idea is not to, you know, throw things out immediately as they're suggested. It's to kind of flesh them out and see if they might work. So, let's just like convene over email before our next meeting in order to figure out what we want to try to look into first. If that sounds good? Like a good plan? Sure.
I wonder if I might be invited into that group. I saw,
Yeah.
that.
No, sorry.
No. Because I'd be happy to chime in on some of those.
Cool, great, yeah. Excellent.
Sorry.
That's
I
okay.
can't resist. So back when we did the budget, this is why I don't stand behind some of this anymore, is because we did a lot of legwork on what was the priorities
Yeah.
with council. And I think we need to pull that back out, or maybe we should do another survey again to make sure that those are still the driving priorities of the council.
In terms of like
What we
the
think
document
is,
that Greg put together where it was like,
what we think is more, what's the most important thing, if we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. I found it beneficial, I hope the staff found it beneficial, because at least then they knew where we're coming from. Hopefully, at least Greg found it beneficial, I mean, hopefully. Cause that's, like I said, that's a driving force of a lot of what we're gonna be, what you're asking us to do.
okay,
Because if you're gonna ask about having the hard conversations, part of it might be on us as our expectations are of what we want to maintain are not necessarily able to be maintained.
okay,
You know, so maybe, I mean, that's a hard thing that the council's gotta look at is, yes, we would like to maintain everything we want, but at what point do we sit there and say, we can no longer have this level of service because, you know,
yeah. I think annually, right, we're, with the expectations to do that again during the budget process.
Yeah, I think that was a good first step. I think it was good to get the council educated, you know, at a little bit deeper level
Mhm.
than probably a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Have any idea about. I think that was good. I think like the individual rankings as we went through the priorities, that no one said decrease this or decrease that. It was all maintain or increase, mostly increase, which obviously we all understand is not possible when we balance our budget with just the revenue we have. So the way I reconciled that was just took an average and made a score, and that's how we came up with collective priorities in order. But we didn't have any of those, as you're calling, hard conversations about, are we cutting anything? Do we need to cut any services? We just sort of prioritize them, but I think that's just the first step, and it needs to be built upon. I think, we're in negotiations with all 4 unions now. As you can imagine, they're not asking for pay decreases or for the same pay. That's not something that we're talking about. There's always, how do we compete and recruit? Which we'll talk about recruitment of police officers, we'll talk about firefighters tonight. We're struggling in all areas, recruiting and retaining, more so than we have in the past in just my short career. But, so that's obviously our personnel costs, a big part of our budget, and that supports all the things we do. Personnel in and of itself is not a service, but they provide all the services. So there's a lot to talk about. I think we'll get a little bit into some of the status of negotiations. Maybe in a future meeting we can talk about that in executive session, because those are ongoing. But those things all feed into the budget process. I think we will revisit. I don't think we'll do the same style 3-hour sessions 3 or 4 times to go through in detail every service we provide this year, because you all did it last year. Maybe next year if we have a bunch of new people or something. But we'll definitely build upon that. So we have to have that conversation continue.
I like the survey. It's just being the first one. I guess I wasn't really clear on everything that, because by the time we got to the end, you're like, well, yeah, we really want this, but I didn't really want this. So but I couldn't go back to say, no, maybe this should be this and this should be, So I mean, I think it was a great step, and I just think something to build off. But like I said, I think we need to sit back as a council and be like, what are the top couple, and that might be the retreat thing, Mark, if you're listening. Maybe a good retreat thing is to sit there and say, what are our top 5 priorities that we'd like to see accomplished, or what are the top 5 that we think we might be able to achieve between now and the end of the year before, I know we're getting towards the end, but I think it's even set the standard for the following year, because no matter what council comes in, we're already setting the budget for them, and they're gonna have to take the budget that we set.
And there's so much to learn.
So-
in that first year, that being set up by the council before.
Let's try to set them up for more successful transition versus, I mean, like we came in, we got handed this thing and but that's one thing, and that's why I said I'll be honest with you, I don't know if our department heads have this. I would scratch everything I put on there right now, because it's junk that I put on there, to be honest with you. It doesn't even, because we did so much that most of that's been covered. We did this, like I said, like with the salary studies, and we did, we're approaching certain things with conversations with the colleges. You've done a lot of legwork with the surveys and some of the stuff that we've done, so most of it that I got on there is like not even, fruitful at this point. It's more, I think, detriment than it would be help. So.
Yeah, so I think it's just a plan to, if you wanna continue, I know you had said to me in person that there was something else that you were.
Yeah, I'm just waiting to
thinking of
get
and
called
trying
back.
to work. Yeah, so, we can kind of convene over this, but I think we should set a course together, like you were saying. What can we accomplish in the next 6 months? Even if it's the legwork for something in the future, just to be productive with our time here. Okay, great. And so things that are, I didn't put a key, but things that are italic are obviously things that are already, actively being worked on, and then the crossed out is something that we have gone through and is not, gonna work. So, but yeah, this is just a compilation of, things that I had kind of in my inbox ready to go, but, obviously it's not static. I would love input from anybody who has it on things that this committee can be doing to try to, be considerate of our financial situation. Okay, thank you. So I'll get that email started, probably later today. So we don't have anything else on our regular agenda. Is there any additional business? Any need for executive session?
No, I've just got one thing on my mind I would like to share, as far as the revenue generation.
Okay.
I just want to emphasize the things that have already been done that I think will benefit from the community. One is the deeds on, the lofts on Dietz.
Uh-huh.
I think that's gonna be a tremendous addition to the community by bringing in all those new residents. I also think that the Springbrook, for the Ford building, again, is making all of these upper floor apartments, which is going to bring in more people in the downtown area. I think the Dietz Street project, I think that's going to also be housing, is that correct, Judy?
1418.
The-
14.8,
Yeah.
yeah, it's gonna have, housing, I think 4 housing units and
Yeah.
3 commercial spaces.
Yeah, and the millions of dollars that we have already awarded to the downtown vendors, as far as all of their facades and different things like that. So I think we have accomplished a lot in the last 2 years to better the Oneonta community and to bring in more disposable income, to increase our water and sewer sales, to bring in more increased sales tax, to bring in more foot traffic in the downtown area. So I really think that the city team has done a tremendous job, especially over the past 2 years, in making the progress that we are all talking about. I've always said that economic development is your best revenue generator. It's not really taxing or, finding new tax sources, but it's development. Bringing in the jobs, bringing in the homeowners, bringing in the businesses. I just wanted to throw that idea out there, so when you're thinking of your revenue generation, please think economic development in the back of your mind. It doesn't mean we need an economic developer, because we already have a wonderful planning team between Judy and Stephen, but it's the economic development of all of the grants that we're getting to help businesses start. I just wanted to kind of remind you of all the progress that we have made in that area.
Thank you. Okay, so does anyone have anything else they want to talk about before we adjourn?
I'm always willing to talk. I just have a quick
Floor is
question,
yours.
Greg. This may not even be the appropriate committee, but since we've been so dry and looking at the river going down and like that, are we concerned about our reservoir yet?
No.
Our water stuff yet?
No, I'm not concerned yet. I don't know the exact level, but we're not at any action level,
I was just up there 2 days
So-
ago.
Yeah, I mean, we're not overtopping the spillway. I was there this weekend, but it was an inch below. When I was at Wilbur Lake, it might be a little lower today. But at this point, can't say that we have any cause for concern or taking any of our conservation actions or anything like that, but it all depends on the weather.
I mean, I'm asking just from up at work and walking around on our grass and property and stuff and looking how dry and dusty it is, and I'm sitting there going, holy crap, this is like July weather already, and we're not even in June. Well, we just hit June. So,
I believe our first action level is 78 inches below the spillway. So we have some room.
Okay. Okay. With nothing further to discuss,